Hello, my name's Angie Francksen, and for my sins, I'm the chairperson of Later Life Hub. And the committee gave me great grief when I named our talk today disaster planning, and I got told I wasn't allowed to use it. So this is why we're now planning for your independence instead of disaster planning. The agenda will take you through things that you ought to be considering. So I thought I would tell you a tale of two sisters. The one on your left is Auntie Edie. The one on the right is the one to be wary of, because this is my mother-in-law, Dorothy. So unfortunately, we lost Auntie Edie earlier this year, and she wasn't quite as prepared for things that happened to her. So she ended up having a fall and going from hospital where she broke her hip into a care home that she didn't want to be in. So this actually gave mother-in-law pause for thought. So as we go through, I'll tell you the differences between the two of them, because this will actually give you reason to consider the things that we're going through. So, do you have a power of attorney? And why should you have a power of attorney? Well, in days gone past, you would have an enduring power of attorney. The enduring power of attorney only gave your attorney decision-making powers on your finances. What you really need to do, if that's the one you have, is you really need to update it so that you have a lasting power of attorney. And the lasting power of attorney is a legal document that is held on your behalf. And you can appoint one or more people known as attorneys that can help you make decisions if you're unable to do so for any reason. And it can come into force temporarily, and then it can be rescinded if you come back to full health and you're able to make decisions on your own behalf again. But the lasting power of attorney is split into two. So you have the health and welfare. So your power of attorney can make decisions on your behalf if you're incapacitated in hospital. So it might be that the hospital wishes to make your recovery speed up, etc., but they might decide they want you in a care home. And this is what happened to Auntie Edie. And I don't think that was the best decision for her, because she was very isolated. The first 2 weeks that she was in there, she was in isolation because of the coronavirus predicament. And she felt as if everybody had deserted her, and she went downhill really fast. What she wanted, and she ranted for, was she wanted to go back to her own home. But because of her hip, this was something that the family felt was a bit impractical. What could have happened was if she'd have had a power of attorney in place, her attorney could have said, yes, we want to have her at home. And yes, what we would like to happen is we'd like to have carers come in. It might have been that some of the family might have stayed overnight and she might need somebody to come in through the day. It might have been that we could have organised live-in care for her, so she could have stayed in her own home with somebody living in with her. The other half of power of attorneys is you can have a financial power of attorney. So in Auntie Edie's case, if she'd have had that in place, we could have looked at her finances for her and we could have set her up with something so that her live-in care could have been taken care of. But as it was, she didn't have it in place, so the decision was taken away from the family. So mother-in-law is far better organised because about 18 months ago, we set up power of attorney for her, both financially and for health and welfare. Now, if you're technically minded and if you have the will to go through all the information, you can download it off the website and I can give you the information for power of attorney so you can have a look at it. Alternately, you can speak to a solicitor who specialises in these things. At Later Life Hub, we tend to use HTF Legal, and it's Helen Forster who owns the practice, and she specialises in all things elderly, from powers of attorney, wills. She also does things like court-appointed deputy for care as well. So she's very qualified to talk to you on these things. Where she differs from a lot of solicitors is she has set fees. So it doesn't matter how long it takes to set up your power of attorney, it is a set fee. And she can do single ones or dual power of attorney, depending on your circumstances. So, care. Have you ever discussed with people the type of care that you would prefer to have? Auntie Edie didn't. Dorothy has done with her son and her daughter. So we know that at the moment she needs a little bit of help, but not as much as daily care. So what we've organised is we've used the Royal Voluntary Service in Hampshire, and she has a lovely lady called Karen who comes in and helps her with housework once a week. And that's enough to keep her independently living at home. She knows that this could change going forward. So we've looked into daily care. Companies like Home Instead can provide daily care. Or if she has another topple, which she's inclined to do, if she ended up needing to come back from hospital, we feel that she would need live-in care because her daughter's in Derbyshire and we're in Yorkshire. So it would make sense to have live-in care. Now, the advantage to that is her family can come and go as we please. So we can go and visit her at the drop of a hat and we don't need permission to come and go. Whereas if you end up in a care home, there's a lot of hoops that need jumping through before you can visit your loved ones. So it is worth thinking about and discussing with either your attorney or with the people that you would like to put in charge of your care. So, finances. This is always a sticky one. What do you do with your finances? Well, I suggest you live life to the full. Enjoy your holidays, enjoy your grandchildren, and make the most of life for as long as you can. Now, when it comes to paying for care, there are all sorts of different options, and there's a lot of options that are never discussed because the local authorities do have pots of money that they don't tell you about and that are hard to access unless you know about it, for continuing care. And continuing care can actually be given at home. Now, one of our members, Oxmoor Care Consultancy, can actually help you apply for these things and take you through it. They would also, when they speak to you initially, they would have a good idea of whether you would qualify for it or not, and whether it's worth going forward with a case. Another thing that you could do is look at speaking to Ian Kemp from Serenity Financial Planning, or Amanda Hunt from Later Living Now, which is Equity Release. And between the two of them, they can actually come up with some really innovative ways to make your money go further. They would also be able to tell you whether equity release is right for you or not. One of the things I like about Later Living Now is they're more likely to say no than yes, because equity release is not something to go into lightly, and it's not something that's right for everybody. And Ian Kemp, who's our financial planner, he's a member of SOLA, which is the Society of Later Life Advisors, and he's very well qualified to explain to you what your different options are. Don't think that you don't have any options. It doesn't matter what your circumstances, there are always options open to you. It's just a case of knowing where to look. Now, one of the things that Dorothy decided to do was she decided that she wanted to plan her funeral because she didn't want Kevin and Karen to have to think about these things. And she wanted to have the peace of mind that it was all paid for, done and dusted. At the moment, there's all sorts of things within funeral planning that's changing. And going forward this year, there's going to be a lot of changes within it, because normally funeral plans would take your money, they'd invest it, they'd make money, and they'd keep the money, and they wouldn't always cover all the expenses. There might be things that your family had to cover later. The reason that Later Life Hub works with Unique is they're very different. Their top priority is ensuring your peace of mind. If you have a funeral plan with them, they will refund the cost of your funeral plan after 15 years. So you can go and organise a party for yourselves or the grandchildren, or do whatever you like with it. But your funeral will still be paid for. It's about 18% more cost effective than any other plans on the market, and it covers 100% of the cost of your funeral. And in the packs that I'll leave with Sue, there is information from Unique. But if you want to ask me any questions about it after the fact, my contact details are there as well. And do people actually know what your wishes are? Have you discussed with people what it is that you want to happen? Now, my mother, who is in the background in the blue stripy t-shirt, that's her 80th birthday. And we all went to have a line dancing party in Scotland, can you believe? And what she wants to do is, she doesn't want everybody being mournful after her funeral. She wants to throw a line dancing party of all God-forsaken things. So yes, we will be having a party because that's what Mother wants. The other thing she's always said is she's going to come back and haunt me should I ever decide to turn off her life support if she's ever put on it. So I have threatened this on numerous occasions and told her she has to make sure she behaves so that I don't do it. And to make sure that she really has kicked the bucket, she has to be buried with a fully charged mobile phone. And all you have to do is ask Tasha about this, because in the middle of the funeral, Tasha has to phone the mobile and make sure she doesn't answer it. So you can tell our family's got a very healthy attitude today. So these are the things that you can discuss with friends and loved ones. And I don't think it should be a taboo subject. One of the other things Dorothy has put in place is all her paperwork is in the yellow box on the bookshelf in the office. And this is written on her things to remember that's stuck on the fridge, so that we all know where to go and find things as and when anything happens. She has categorically said that she wants to live in her own home, come hell or high water. So, as has my mother in actual fact, so we know what we have to do for both of them. The other thing is do your loved ones or your attorney know where your contacts can be found? If it's in your phone, is your passcode written down somewhere for somebody to find, or have you given it to somebody so that they can find your contacts in your address book? What both mothers have done in our case is they both have their little black books and we know where to find them. I have given you a things to remember or your wish list, and this is going to be sent out to you from Sue, so you can build up your own wish list. Right, paperwork. Do you have your paperwork on paper or is it digital? If it's digital, if everything goes to the cloud, does somebody have access to the cloud? If all your bills are paid digitally, do you have a list of who your bills are, who's billing you, how to access the bills? And if it's in paperwork, is the paperwork all collated in one place? These are things that a lot of people don't actually think about. And they're normally scattered to the four winds. So every time you think you've got to the bottom of it, you find another bit of paper or another bill comes in. So it's better if everything's collated and in one place. But it's up to the individual how you collate it and where you keep it. You just need to make sure that somebody knows. Now, Sue will have your information pack. This will be available, the PowerPoint slides will be available, as will the wish list and the tick list of all the things that you might want to consider and do. If you've got any queries, you can feel free to call me after the fact, or you can email me at info@laterlifehub.org. Because if I don't know the answer, one of our members definitely will, and we can transfer you to the relevant member. So my question is, does anybody have any questions?